Justify, led by trainer Bob Baffert, emerges from barn 33 to meet the public the morning after winning the 144th Kentucky Derby. Garry Jones, Associated Press, Louisville. This Triple Crown season came garnished with a gusher of big anniversaries: 50 years since the most controversial Kentucky Derby finish, 40 years since the sweep of the great Affirmed against the almost as great Alydar, 30 years since the wire-to-wire wonder of the filly winning colors, and 20 years since. Man, how weird. Elliott cost me a Triple Crown, Bob Baffert said Saturday night. You cost me a Derby, Elliott Walden retorted. They traded these fun and frivolous barbs from the same winning news conference day as teammates, even in a sport with no trades, as trainer and owner of Justify, who had just made the 144th Kentucky Derby look as if he had strolled into the classroom knowing he would ace the test. The 65-year-old Baffert and the 55-year-old Walden sat there 20 years after they had been 45 and 35, with their biographies intertwined so differently at an unbelievable Belmont Stakes. I'm just happy for my connections, Walden said June 6, 1998. At least we got to cheer all the way to the wire, a bummed Baffert said that same day. To the towering pile of the implausible in a sport of enchanting mysteries, then, throw the very idea that the Rye native Arizonan, Baffert, and the Dry native Kentuckian, Walden, would collaborate at a summit 20 years on. In the gripping confusion at the end of that 1998 Belmont Stakes, as TV cameras chronicled their countenances, they had an intersection and a divergence. Dave Johnson had, for ABC, both the call and the capacity to make neck hairs stand. "Real quiet takes command," Johnson exclaimed at the top of stretch moment. A roar from the crowd as he bounces away by 3.5 lengths. Baffert had real quiet, his one-time second-string 3-year-old bouncing to become the first Triple Crown winner since Affirmed 20 years earlier. Walden had Victory Gallop, who had charged to within half a length of Real Quiet at the Kentucky Derby wire, then had finished second again to Real Quiet in the Preakness. Johnson, here comes Victory Gallop with Gary Stevens. Stevens, of course, had ridden Silver Charm for Baffert to the verge of the 1997 Triple Crown, only to be hunted down by Touch Gold at the Killjoy Belmont wire, further evidence of the impossible tangles. Too tight to call. Did he win the Triple Crown? Neither jockey indicating that they won it. Victory Gallop won by a nose, of course. The 80,162 at Belmont Park completed a decrescendo. Real Quiet jockey Kent Desermo said, "I felt like I touched it." Stevens said, "At the finish, I still didn't know if I had won." Walden said, "I don't feel any empathy for Baffert, and Bob's had a tremendous 2 years, and this is not about beating Bob Baffert or Real Quiet, and it's about winning races for my owners." Baffert said, "I sort of felt what it was like winning the Triple Crown, and, when he turned for home on the lead, I wanted to cry." The possibilities changed in 2005 with a release from Wingstar Farm in Kentucky, for which Walden had been serving as semi-private trainer. Wingstar made him vice president in charge of racing and bloodstock services. "Leaving a 21-year career of training horses seems hard to do," Walden said in the release, but he reveled that it gives me the opportunity to see my children grow up. 13 years more, and Walden is the president and CEO. 13 years more, and Baffert said, "And Elliott, they sent me this horse." Justify's owners proved populous and global. Wingstar, China Horse Club, head of Plains Partners, Starlight Racing. Kenny Trout at Wingstar, and both Michael Wallace at the China Horse Club both had wanted Bob to train some horses, Walden said. "So we ventured into California last year, gave Bob a couple. We gave him a horse named American Anthem. And he did very well with him. And Bob and I have a great relationship over the years. I just appreciate his camaraderie with communication. And that's important to me, that we can communicate on a level that I know what's going on, whether they're 50 miles down the road or 3,000 miles down the road. And so Bob's been great that way. As far as why we sent him Justify, I can't tell you that there was a great reason for that. We did think Justify was one of our better horses. And if you are going to send a horse to Bob, you want him in the first barn. You don't want to Los Al too long," a reference to Baffert's barn at Los Alamitos in California. "We had to keep sending him to Los Al. And I kept saying, Bob, when are we going to get him to Santa Anita? When are we going to get him to Santa Anita?" Finally he worked him and said, "Man, this horse can run." I said, "Well, if you got him over here 3 weeks ago, we wouldn't have the Apollo curse." That referred to the fact that no horse in the 136 years since Apollo in 1882 had won the Kentucky Derby without racing as a 2-year-old. Come April, Baffert recalled to reporters at Santa Anita about how Mike Marlowe, his assistant at Los Alamitos, had been raving about Justify well before the colt first raced Feb. 18. Come May 5th, Baffert said, I mean, the first time we worked him there, at Santa Anita's, I talked to Elliot. I said, I think we have something really special. As their shared colt improved to 4-0, they sometimes sounded like two trainers instead of one. Complimenting the Kentucky Derby field Justify had just beaten, Baffert said, this is the toughest bunch that I have ever been involved with. There's some really good horses in there, Walden interjected from down the row, with a gravitas a regular owner might lack, and they all ran. Walden confessed that he once said, now, Bob, don't rush this horse, this is before he ever ran. Then, do you remember that, Bob? Baffert seemed to, anyway. He's very capable on so many fronts, Walden said of Baffert. Finally, Baffert told the story of being in Dubai and getting the news that Mackenzie, another 3-year-old star, had a leg injury. He told of that great big, familiar thud in the gut. And he said, and Elliot, as a trainer, he knows what we go through. And so that's why, when I talk to him, I talk to him like he's another trainer. We're dealing with this, whatever. Together they forge now for a Triple Crown. All 4 of Baffert's previous Kentucky Derby winners also won the Preakness. With 13 wins in Triple Crown races, Baffert lurks near D. Wayne Lucas's record of 14. Only a racing connoisseur who had learned to expect the implausible could have guessed all of this 20 years ago after that stomach-tossing Belmont stretch. Only a fool, perhaps, would have guessed that 20 years on, Baffert would say, you are off the hook, Elliot.